Hello everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of A Week in Technology. My name is Karamjit, and something different today, actually not different, we've done it before. Instead of Aisha being my co-conspirator for this week, we've got a guest, and it's somebody I'm very excited about and who I've known for a long time, and no other than Nazrin Hassan, CEO of Cradle Funds in Berhad. How are you doing, Nazrin?
Fine, doing fine.
Excellent, great. Yeah, great, glad. Really happy to have you here on our Merdeka show. You know, Merdeka means a lot to me, and more so because my dad used to be in the army, so he just put his life on the line. So you get a little bit of sense of what that means then and what independence is. But really, Nazrin is somebody I've known for a long time. I think since year 2000. I first knew him when he was helping his brother run an online travel company, Zarnet, right?
Yeah.
I still remember the name because I thought it's a pretty cool name. So, but I'm bringing it up because Nazrin has been an entrepreneur before, and so he's experienced, firsthand, what the gaps in funding are and how critical in a damaging way they are when there are these gaps and they're not addressed. And I like to joke with some people that you've been thinking of this issue of gaps, in the funding ecosystem, while I was still playing marbles, because I knew nothing about the criticalness, of these gaps way back then. Yeah. And it's only through interacting with you over the years that I've come to realize how important these gaps are and how they need to be addressed. So it's really great that you're on the show and that you can also announce, that you've got approval finally for the 500K, right?
Yes.
Whether I should say fund or grant, it's a grant, right?
It's a grant.
So talk to us about that and what's the journey been like in getting, this final approval. I'm using them for final because I'm wondering if you're going to say it's the within your limits of Cradle, the ecosystem that what you all can do is complete. Yeah. But tell me if I'm wrong, no issues.
It has been a long journey. I think personally, from a personal perspective, it's been an 8-year journey.
8 years.
I started lobbying for seed development funding since 2001.
Wow.
And of course you know that Cradle was born in 2003.
Yeah, 2003.
And that in itself was a good start. We started with pre-seed funding, and as I pointed out to Aisha earlier, on hindsight, the starting out with the pre-seed funding was a good thing, because it allowed us to understand the intricacies and the issues of dealing with early stage technology entrepreneurs. And we realized at that time that it was not just about the funding gap.
Okay.
It's also a skills gap.
Sure.
A lot of the technology entrepreneurs are very tech savvy, but perhaps not as business savvy, nor as market aware as they should be as business people.
Just spot on. Yeah.
So these are some of the gaps that we recognized during the program from 2003.
Okay.
And we started addressing it by having things like mentors.
Sure.
To help fill up the domain gaps, by having commercialization partners to help them get to the next stage.
Okay. Has that commercialization partners part been as successful as you want it to be? Because my perception is that it's not been anywhere near as successful as I know you definitely would like it to be. What have been the challenges there?
I think in measuring these things, you've always got to go by benchmarks.
Okay.
Our current commercialization rate is, I think, the highest in the country, 48%.
At 48%?
48%. And if you take international benchmarks, if you compare it to the SBIR, Small Business Investment Research Grant in the US,
out of the US, okay,
they've got an 80% commercialization rate, but that's coupled with a government procurement program. Okay. But if you take an independent measure,
okay,
without the government procurement program coming in, the highest in the world currently that I know is the Israelis, at 57%. Commercialization for similar grant as ours.
Okay.
So
just an aside, we're gonna have to edit that part out about Israelis and Singaporeans. Anything good we say about them, it gets the snip.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Okay. Wow, that's really high. Okay.
That's where the international benchmark is. So we're not so far behind the best in the world. And what I intend to do is to keep increasing the commercialization rate.
Okay.
Perhaps up till 70% in 2015.
By 2015,
By 2015.
So you think there's a way to improve it further?
Definitely.
Wow.
If you improve,
because you've learned from the existing experience, right?
Yeah. If you improve the ecosystem, if you improve the technopreneurs themselves, their competencies, their capabilities, you can definitely increase the commercialization rate. I think there's an optimum commercialization rate, which I think is probably 70%.
Okay.
Given that how early the stage of the funds is.
Okay.
And I think we've still got some space to improve.
Some space, huh? Okay. What about this 500k fund, and where do you see this coming into the picture, and what kind of role do you think it can play? I mean, it's obviously huge, great news, great Merdeka present, for all Malaysian entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. But what role do you see this fund playing?
Well,
this grant, sorry, should I say fund or grant? It's really a grant, right?
It's a grant.
Okay, excellent.
As I always tell people, when you talk about innovation, innovation is the process of creation plus commercialization. There's no talking about innovation if the thing doesn't actually commercialize.
Okay.
If the thing doesn't commercialize, it's just R&D.
R&D, okay.
So when everyone talks about innovation, the core component that we also have to tackle is commercialization.
Okay.
And we all have known how serious the commercialization gap was in the last few years.
Sure. And still is actually in my mind, in a lot of our minds. Okay.
I mean, there's been a lot of investments on the R&D side, but very few companies have been able to commercialize and bring it to the next level because there was a lack of commercialization funding. Okay. Taking the numbers last year alone from the SC, there were 31 seed venture capital deals last year. 28 of it was done by MAFCAP.
Okay.
That's scary in two ways. It's scary in the sense that overall numbers were only 31 nationally, and 28 of it was done by government.
Incredible.
VC. So that means that there was a total market failure as far as private sector funds are concerned in coming at the level. So I think it is very far-sighted of the current Najib administration to allow us the approval for the seed funding. It's timely.
Sure,
and then we need to cover this gap as soon as possible to make sure that all the other investments that we've made into the R&D side and all the other investments that we've made on the venture capital side comes together. Because unless we bridge that gap, it's not going to move forward.
Sure. But with this 500k, you think it acts as a bridge, for this gap? Okay.
Definitely.
Does it help with the people who've already had, cradle funding, in the smaller scales, and will it attract a better quality, managers who are with big companies to come out and say, maybe I can try something now? Because $500,000 is substantial.
I think so. I think the moment when they can translate it into commercialization in a more concrete way. Currently, it's still very organic. Let's say if a person cannot raise the next round of funding after the prototype has been completed. So they get their first contract, and they have to organically grow the company. They cannot ramp up. So growth takes a lot longer than it should.
Sure, of course.
Partly because the funding gap is there. But now I think given that there's opportunity there for funding, and then if the entrepreneurs are resourceful enough to get some of their own funds, some of the other private sector funds to match what we give, they could come up with a sizable portion in order to commercialize. And I think that helps greatly, because at the other end, you've got the venture capitalists who, most of the private sector ones at least, have only the risk appetites to play in the later stages. So we've got to connect this end to this end, where we've got to grow the companies perhaps between 1 to 3 years of age. Then they will have a track record, and then the VCs will probably be more willing to take the risk and invest.
Take the risk and come in.
Because it will be more correspondent to their risk appetite.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this $500,000 plays a critical role. Is it just pure technology place, or it can be non-technology too? What's the bias for this, or the favor?
In keeping to the mandate, it is still technology companies.
Very much technology. So, but it could be biotech also, right? Because it's under the technology sphere, or
no. Cradle has always funded technology broad-based.
Okay, broad-based.
So it's not only ICT, but also biotech, life sciences, material sciences, even inventions. It's broad-based.
Okay. It's interesting that you mentioned there's also a gap in with the CEOs, or with the entrepreneurs themselves, because I was with somebody from industry this morning, and I recently had a discussion with another entrepreneur, and he was sharing that his company had, and this is Pua Kiali, from ENT Quest. And the company had was in the Red Herring 100 Asia Pacific, and then end up Red Herring wanted to have the global event. Right? I think you know about the story, at least with him. So they get picked out of 1,800 companies to be in the final 200. So he flies down to Seattle because he says, this